to, or yeah, so what I figured I would do, or what I think I will do, is go over maybe a few different workflows. I have, I tend to play with a lot of toys. So I have my usual kind of workhorse one which is the one I'll show off first, I think. It uses opencode, which is an application that is similar to Claude Code, etc. However, this one uses Oh My Opencode, which is sort of a collection of a prefab. Actually, we could check that out, I think. It's sort of a prefab collection of let me see if I can go to my Explorer here. Oh my open code, which maybe we'll find. I don't know why that graph is like finding so much stuff. Kind of weird.
Warren, what is the screen that we're looking at?
Oh, this is NeoVim. This is a distro of NeoVim, if you want to call it that, called lazyvim. So that uses the lazy config manager and comes with a bunch of like it's all like pre-configured basically. It's sort of it's NeoVim, but if somebody basically just like added 100 plugins to make it into like a real IDE. So it's got a debugger, it's got LSP, it's got all that good stuff. It's also got lazy extras. So if you do things like if you have a particular set of languages that you use, it's got prefabbed configs for your debug adapter, your LSP, et cetera, for languages. And then like if you prefer Mini, which is like a collection of NeoVim plugins, or if you prefer, I think the other one, the one is Mini, and then the other one is like I forget, but there's another kind of there's another like collection of plugins. Basically, there's a bunch of plugins that come along with this. This actually does, I believe, this comes with an opencode extra that I installed, if I'm not mistaken. Either that or this is just one that I use myself. But yeah,
how would you compare this to like one of the VS Code derivatives, Cursor
uh,
or something like that, and why this one?
um, so for me, I do still use Cursor, Windsurf, etc., but I usually use them for two reasons. One is at least for Windsurf and Cursor, I got grandfathered into their very first plan. So I have a bunch of extra tokens on the cheap that I want to use.
Okay.
And then, which is kind of the primary use case for me leaving NeoVim, in the event that I do. But also they have useful features that I like to use. Windsurf specifically, I use their code maps feature all the time. I find it super, super useful. And actually somebody on their team, I don't know if they have the CLI released yet, but they are working on a CLI that uses it doesn't use their code maps, but it uses their grepping model. And it's super, super useful for me to tell an agent to use the Windsurf CLI to map a code path in the code base, which I'll probably show later, actually. So yes, I personally use everything I can all the time because I want to have a really good picture of what state of the art is and where people are headed, kind of, because I'm building in this space, and then I also just like want to stay on top of it as best I can. But for me, something like NeoVim is very or NeoVim itself, I think given the choice, I would generally prefer to be in it, primarily because I'm lazyvim has everything I need and I'm used to it. I would recommend if you are getting into NeoVim, you should use a distro like lazyvim or astrovim or nvchat, because that will save you a ton of time on setup. Normally, the big kind of hurdle for Vim with people is that like JK, the obviously the motions are kind of weird to get used to, but also I believe normally your mouse behavior is a little bit weird. But as you can see in this, I can still use my mouse and stuff if I get scared, basically. So the which I do somewhat frequently. Um, I like lazyvim as a distro just because the developer of the distro he's goes by Folke. He makes a lot of very good plugins, and I this is just the one I picked, and I like this one. It's full featured. This is an IDE as opposed to being something like Kickstart or NVChad, which is designed to not it's designed as a starting point that you build on top of rather than something that is like fully complete in and of itself. So for me, lazyvim is a good fit just because I think Foca has good taste and it comes with most of the stuff I need, and all of the stuff that I added is very easy. And then the sort of second, I guess, case for NeoVim for me is if I'm I don't know if anybody's maybe heard the term like personal development environment as opposed to integrated or whatever IDE stands for. I think these days, especially because I have LLMs that can code for me, I would like my LLM to be able to add things to my development environment in the event that we're working on a project, and creating a plugin specifically for that project would be helpful to help my work go faster. So that's the advantage of NeoVim is I can just like tell opencode like, hey, make me a plugin that's going to watch the server running on this port and like is going to give me like a nice little readout on my bottom thing here, for
Oh, nice.
instance. So yeah, the defaults are good, the customizability is good, and obviously the navigation is very helpful. Like being able to bounce between all of these pins is just me holding control and HJKL, and I can control D and scroll up and down quite quickly. That said, I do use like I said, I do use anti-gravity and windsurf and cursor as well, just for there. I reach for them for specific things, but this is home. This is where I live. Um,
Now, when you're doing remote, do you run this? Does this have like a remote shell SSH type of capability, or do you just log in and
um, let's see. I think this SK. Oh, is it the wrong one? SK. SSH. Do we have? So the other thing I like about lazyvim is I have my key maps thing. Remote. Do we have a remote or anything? So I can search for stuff if I need it. I'm not sure that this one has anything built in, but there's probably an extra, and I'm guessing I think Wrangler is maybe a plugin here, but usually for SSH sessions, I have a separate terminal, which is actually this one. And I will use this one for SSH and remote work just because it's already like pre-configured and set up.
okay.
And yeah, I use Chemois, which is a dot file config manager. So it's pretty easy for me to just take this NeoVim instance and go drop it onto a remote, provided that the remote can handle it, essentially, if I need it. So for this, like I said, we use my opencode in this case, and usually what my approach is something is a process that's fairly similar to something like a research plan implement, essentially. So what we'll start off with is I should check and see if okay. I wonder if I have my tasks ported over to this repo right now or not. I might not. And I don't have JJ init. term here. We're gonna JJ get init co-locate. This is just me using an extra version control thing that I want to practice. So let's start off with, can you check readme research state of code base? And then, actually I should check, let me do BD status, BD init. Okay, so BD is a CLI called beads that I'll often use for agents to do task management. Which normally, I think I actually ported this repo over to a different repo. So I think I do have some tickets in process over there. Which I wonder if I can have opencode maybe go check that. Let's actually see if that'll work. Which I think I'll need to, I think I will need to get out of this, and then I want to go, I believe, here. And then I want to check, yeah, I've got beads right here. So let me see if I can copy this up to light shell beads. Oh, wait, that won't work. Shell beads, and did that make it all the way in? Yes, it did. Okay, cool. And then let's double check and go BD status. Okay. Double check Letta stuff and then BD status there. Okay, so all the tickets over there are closed. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna just start working over here. So we're gonna go open code, new instance, and we're gonna jump over here and we're gonna say, okay, research current code base states IC README says we are in process on a few items. Give you, let's see, memory system. Let's see if we can work on memory. Can you look into codebase and see if we have a Letta implementation in here already? And if not, we'll want to create a plan. Oh, I should also, you'll notice that this is in every one of my my repos, you will always see the openspec folder. This is because this is how I use, this is how I do spec-driven, agent-driven development. I use a thing called openspec, but you can use pretty much whatever you want. Openspec show. Let's show the specs, and let's show that one. So generally what I'll do is I'll say research the code base. Then I'll want to make sure that I have an up-to-date project.md that outlines all of the stuff that you need to know about how the thingy works. So openspec has a set of specs for all of these individual kind of items, and then for the change sets that have resulted in these specs. So do I have an archive? I do. So these are all things that we've already worked through. So proposal, and then this contains a change to the spec. So let's show what that looks like. So in this case, so like I mentioned, I'm going to have an openspec folder in every single one of my Git repos at any given time. And if I need to know what the thing currently does, these spec.mds should be up to date and should accurately describe the behavior of the code in the code base currently. So according to the spec, I don't see one for Letta. Let me just Letta and see if that is currently in place. Self-hosted, yes. Letta server is running, which is currently running in one of my terminals. Get rid of that here. Yeah, so that one is up. I started that prior to. And then, okay. So let's start off with research. Can you research the states of the Letta memory implementation and tell me what if it's complete or not? So I don't currently have a spec.md for Letta. So I'm guessing I actually don't have it implemented, but I might. So we will see. It's currently listed as planned, and you'll notice that this says wave 2. Generally how I do code bases is I'll use openspec to create a change proposal, and me and whatever utility I'm using will iterate on the proposal. So you can see adding voice orchestration adds a proposal. And so I'll use this as kind of the thing that I'm looking at. And we'll kind of go over this, and once it looks good to me, then I will split, basically the prompt that I'll give is, okay, cool, make tasks to complete that. And then what I want you to do is I want you to break those tasks up into work streams that can be parallelized. I want you to design the work that we're going to do for this such that we can deploy as many sub-agents at once as we can to complete all of this at once, basically. So currently it looks like we have the client connections, we've got the blocks, we've got the message splitting, per user block attached detach, not wired up, not implemented, not implemented, not implemented, and none exist. Okay. Also noticed that I don't have a tests folder, which is pretty unusual for me. I want to see if I forgot to port that over, which should be here. Okay, fixture. Okay, yeah, we're just going to port that over then. Let me go light shell tests. Cool. Yes, because this is I originally did not have that. Actually, let me commit that real quick too. I should probably git commit tests. And then git push. And the sparse checkouts. Interesting. Why did that not add the tests folder? Strange. Oh, it's because I'm in the wrong repo, lol. Let's go late shell. And we want to go git add, git commit tests. Push. Let me push that up. Primitives exist, but per user memory flow, as described in the spec, is not connected. Calls the letter directly without user memory context. Excellent. Okay. So this all seems reasonable enough to me, or I can kind of recognize most of it. So what I'll do is go, okay, can you create an openspec proposal for the per user block attach detach feature? And then I have in my agents.md, it should tell it what openspec is, and it can use the openspec CLI to check that. And mentions the Letta. Okay, cool. So it can, the advantage of using multiple CLIs to organize all this stuff is that it knows more about this than I do, essentially, because what it'll do is dump all of the specs into context progressively. And then it'll have a giant list of tasks that it should probably do. So this may already have, is this, let's see. So these are change proposal. Oh, I see. I already have one for per user memory. Okay, so this is the one it just made. Create a memory manager, wire the memory attachment, Discord user IDs, and conversation context building. Sure. Um, Looks good to me. Can you take a test-driven development approach? Then, do we already have tasks for it? I think we do. We do. Cool. Can you deploy uh, deploy multiple subagents and complete the spec delta, organizing tasks by dependent work streams. Use the BD CLI to plan the tasks with appropriate dependencies. Then once they've been added, deploy multiple simultaneous subagents to work the delta until complete. So I'm not sure how I'm not sure how Oh My Open Code handles subagents. I'm not sure I like it. I believe I think my two most well configured subagent platforms right now are Claude Code and Factory. But I'm testing out Oh My Open Code to see if I like it, basically. Roger, yeah, you said it
Yeah,
sounded like you had a question.
yeah, there was a couple questions actually.
Yeah, sure.
So BD, is that kind of like if you remember Gantt chart type of thing where you have different tasks with
Exactly. Yep.
dependency type is that kind of a CLI version of a Gantt chart then?
Yes, exactly. In fact, I can show, let me just double check here. I can show BV, which is the beads visualizer, which will let us see that we have an open thing, and we can maybe get, maybe if my, oh, I think it's because it's in NeoVim, it's a little janky. Yes, we can do it. Let's do it over in my, we're gonna go light shell. We're gonna be, okay, cool. So yeah, I do in fact have like a visualizer for what it's doing here.
Okay.
That will put it into a Gantt chart, and we'll do some graph analysis on what kind of dependencies are. So it
And then
looks like it's
you've
hmm.
got so Opus now knows how to use the BD CLI and it uses that to kind of manage tasks. Is that
Yes,
what it
yeah.
does?
So the two CLIs that I use the most probably are openspec and BD, and I don't use them. My agents do. They're designed that way. I also have a third one called linctl, which is designed for linear in case I need the rest of the team to be able to follow. That is also a CLI that's designed for agents to be using it and not people, essentially. So it progressively discloses context in such a way where it'll be helpful for agents to use the various commands, and it'll help them pull in context that's relevant to their tasks, essentially.
Uh,
Okay.
uh, does the LLM automatically knows how to use BD and OpenSpec, or do you have to tell them how to
Uh,
use by something like skills or something?
For openspec, you notice that I ran the bd init command, and the openspec also has its own init command. What that does is it'll add instructions about how to use them into the openspec folder, and then I believe agents.md should yeah, so we have a quick reference on like, hey, here's some of the BD stuff, and when it does, there are a couple of commands, BD ready and BD show and BD prime. If I think that it has lost track of beads, then I'll just run BD prime in its context window so it can stay on track with that stuff. But generally speaking, I find that the CLIs are both well designed enough where I generally don't have to do a lot of work personally to keep them sane, essentially.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay. Thank you.
does Opus kind of know how to use these out of the box, or do you have some sort of prompt that you're using for that?
No, the only thing that I have are what you can see. So I only have my in my openspec folder, I have the agents.md that's located there. So whenever it does something inside the openspec folder, then it'll get that. And I believe BD, and I'm not sure. I think openspec maybe has a hook or something too. They both come with some amount of extra utilities that will help inject context into whatever agent it is you're using. I think they use the hooks mechanic primarily.
And so openspec,
Yeah.
can you elaborate on that a little bit then? I mean, I gather that it keeps track of specs for some sort of granularity.
Yeah.
Does it impose some sort of structure on it or something?
Uh, yes, but it's just a markdown structure. So you can see when, then we can see scenario, when, then. Personally, for me, I find that if I have a spec that's outlined kind of like this, and you can configure that a little bit. I just use the default configuration because it's enough for me. I find that if I have a spec that's specified in this way, and then I tell the agents do test-driven development, I can usually match the test output to, oh, okay, these are the intents that were expressed in this spec. So if I have tests, so I should have a test for is floor open. And if I need, if I need to verify that, or if the is floor open starts erroring out, then I can go back, I can look at the spec, I can go and look at the archive change of when we implemented the spec. I can check BD for what all the work items of the spec were. Basically, what this allows me to do is be fairly hands-off, but have artifacts in the repo that contain all of the work that has ever been done on the piece of code that I'm worrying about, basically.
So is openspec, is the CLI is maintaining that directory structure then? Is that what?
Yeah, or it's mostly reading from the structure. Essentially, what openspec does is it outlines it gives the agent a schema in which to work through proposals and outline tasks, so they all kind of look the same. And then it has a validate command afterwards, validate strict, to confirm the archive change passes checks. And it will check it'll check any changes that are proposed in the spec. So this will then update the active spec for a memory system. So once this is complete and it gets archived, we'll have a new spec in this spec folder called memory system. And we have the proposal for what, why, et cetera, and then we have our new incoming spec, and then the openspec validate will make sure that everything is in this format. So if the LLM screws up, then that validate command will clue it in. Hey, you screwed this up. You should fix it, kind of thing.
So the agents actually create like the spec.mds directly, is that right? And then
yeah.
And then it's using openspec to kind of validate that, yeah, the format of these, the syntax of these, the structure is all fits some rule set. Okay.
Yeah, essentially most of these tools are just adding, or like normally your LLM is just sort of spitting out tokens randomly. I found very quickly that doesn't work very well for coding. So I add a lot of redundant structures on top that help me that give the LLM the tools to make it stay on the rails. And then if I notice I have a weird spec or there's something in the proposal that looks off to me, or if like I start getting if I start getting bugs in production, I can go look at the spec. I can go look at the beads tickets that were worked for it. And then I can also rely on the tests and fixtures. I also use Mies quite frequently for a phrase I frequently use with my agents is great. Now that you've completed the work, make me a Mies task that gives me compressed human readable test output that actually tests the feature you just implemented and make it so I can read it. So that way rather than me, being all the way in the loop here, I can just stay on top of it and go, hey, make me a task in the task runner that's going to show me what you just did. So that way I really only have to step in when something goes wrong.
Okay. And then my last question, so I've noticed, and I don't actually know what models it is, but some of the Anthropic models now, I've noticed that they've started like prompting me. If you get to some, you have some objective and you get to a decision point and it wants clarification, do you want choice A or choice B? That it starts prompting you with questions. Is that something? I'm just wondering what your experience is with that. Is that integrated into your workflow?
I believe that is a feature of Claude Code and the Claude Web platform. I believe it is also implemented in opencode at the moment. So I think opencode can do that too. I find that my process usually doesn't involve a lot of that, mostly because I do all of the top-down planning first, and I have a very strict like TDD workflow. So like by the time we start working, we know what work is going to get done, and if you're doing stuff that's not that work and you have to ask questions, then we screwed something up, basically.
Yeah, I guess it'd be more in the early phases when you're creating your initial objectives, creating your initial specs. How much guidance are you being very explicit about the guidance, or are you reading its suggestions and changing that? How do you do that?
I'm primarily relying on openspec to handle that. So I'll give it a very general, like, hey, I want to use Letta. I want to add per user memory. Use openspec. Give me a proposal that is going to propose that feature change. And then this document is what I'll iterate on to make sure that it looks right. Oftentimes it'll look right off the bat or right enough. Or if I don't know enough about the code base yet, which does certainly happen, then while we're working, if the spec looked good, but while we're working, we run into some confounding situations, then what that will indicate to me is that I have what I need to go. I need to go update project.md because there's something in something in this document is not correctly documenting what the code base is currently doing, and that's why the spec change that we're proposing does not actually correspond with the code that's there.
So the original project MD, is that you hands-on or?
Nope, I have agents do that too. The directive for that one is fairly simple. It's just like research the code base and give me a complete kind of document of this project. I believe openspec contains a prompt about what project.md should have in it. I wonder if it does. Projects. Yeah, read this for conventions, and then it's got all this instructions that only pop into context when it's in this openspec folder that give the agent a bunch of information about how to use openspec when it's working on specs. When it's not working on specs, then this is dropped from context. But this gives a fairly detailed view of how all these spec conventions work. I don't even know what all of them are, essentially. Honestly, I rely on the agents to know that.
Oh, so the project MD is that project specific, or is that just defining it is? Okay.
Yes.
Because some of the stuff it looked like was fairly
Yeah,
early.
so agents.md tells them how openspec works, and project.md it starts off blank, and you have agents fill it in. Your kind of initial prompt for any project is, "Hey, help me fill out project.md."
Okay. 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 Sorry if that series of questions derailed you at
No,
all,
it's
but
great. Yeah, no, it's the yeah, it's and like I wouldn't say this is like the one true workflow or anything. This is just what works for me, but I find that it has enough. I really like having like a detailed human readable history at my disposal, and then avoiding reading all of that history as much as I can, essentially, is kind of my goal. The idea being like, I don't want to look at it. If it works perfectly and you can one shot it all yourself, Claude, great. If something goes wrong, I need to know exactly what you did in great detail, and I need to be able to zoom in as far as I need to figure out what's going on, essentially.
Uh, I also have a few questions.
Sure.
So, how do you handle something like big changes to the requirements? For example, you want something, I don't remember your requirements, but yeah, if you need to change in the big change in the requirements.
I will generally follow the same process of so like the current state of all of the code is contained in these spec.mds. If there are any changes to any of the current code, then that'll go through the openspec change proposal process, and then once this guy is finished implementing the per user memory, that'll create a new spec. So if there's like a significant refactoring or somebody else is in this code base working on it, then generally what I'll do is if I sit down to work for the day, I'm gonna go like, hey, the first thing we should do, hey, like 3 PRs just got merged. I need you to go back and open and update all of our current specs and make sure that we're still in line with what's actually there, essentially.
Oh, so you ask the open code to update those specs.
Yep. Mhm.
Oh, okay, okay, interesting. And yeah, the second question is there any like chance that you have to manually modify the code? For example, a PM might come to you and say, increase the spacing here by 1 or 2 pixels, or something, change the color by this amount.
Uh, if they could do that, and I would still, I would probably follow my openspec workflow and not change it myself, even if it's a little bit slower. Just because this is the workflow that like I'm trying to practice. So if there's a hole in this workflow, then I want to know what that is more than I want to like go in and fix the thing because it's faster for me to fix that. Essentially, like my the on one hand, yes, I'm iterating on a code base, but I'm also trying to like constantly iterate on the process by which I'm getting that code base. So I would rather take a little bit longer and do it a little bit differently than I would do it like just the fastest way, because I want to know if there's a tiny change that's getting thrown at me by a PM, can my process still handle that, essentially? Um, so the how I might propose that, or how I might approach a change like that, is I might say, hey, make me a Mies task that runs all of the tests for the pixel rendering on the dashboard, and then render rather than just dumping me the output, I want that Mies task to give me a very human readable version of what what those tests are trying to tell me, essentially. So now we have our per user memory doc integration complete, and we have a bunch of new tests for it. So let's see. Can you make me a Mies task that runs our new test suite and then delivers compressed human readable output that will show me the status of the code paths we just changed and outline what is working in a succinct manner. I don't know if I like the search mode hook there, maybe. Well, yeah, because I'm gonna want to know the I'm gonna use that tonal structure. Yep, cool. So I don't want to read this. I don't want to have my agents reading that. So now it's going to just take my task runner and it's going to compress that down into something that makes sense to me, essentially.
Okay, and yeah, sorry, I still have two questions.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so the third is when in the design phase, to which level you would go go deep into? Because because I'm coming from a software development background,
Mhm.
so I tend to have kind of those some class structures or components of the system in my mind, but it's a lot of cases is the LLM gave me a different things. So it's a it feels painful to like tell the LLM to do what I'm thinking of. So
Mhm.
I would like to know how you deal with that.
Uh, yeah, or yeah, I try to avoid directly prompting the LLM with what I want as often as I can. To me, if I'm manually prompting my agents to do one task at a time, I'm in the way, essentially. So I would rather have a secondary document that I can kind of read and edit at my leisure while the agents are working, because I don't want to interrupt them, essentially. So the reason that I have all of these like redundant task management, because I could in theory just tell this thing like, hey, make me a memory system, and it would. But I would rather have this kind of like strict codified process, because that will let me like maximally leverage the ability or the ability of the agents to do what agents do best, which is read and write really, really fast in parallel all the time, essentially. Um, so generally speaking, if I have something very specific in mind that I want to make that I don't want an agent to screw up, I'm gonna do that via spec, and then like if I need the code, like for me, I I I'm reading a lot more Markdown than I am reading much of the source code. In fact, I haven't read most of this code base. Fun fact, which is much the same for most of my work that I do these days. Which is a scary prospect for commit let's do add per user memory spec needs archival needs test memory for features. So this would be like PR ready, and what I would do is run this, include this in the PR, and then that will also generally kick off, or how I have mine set up is Codex and Claude will review any PRs that come into my repos. So if I were following my detailed procedure, I'll hopefully there also catch any slop on the way into main, because I'll have another two agents auditing the code, essentially. Um, and then I have my Muse task that will give me the compressed output for these new code paths, and that will give me like, okay, this is the list of functions that I need to worry about for this feature, essentially.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
And also, yeah, the last question. I noticed that you are using Claude Opus.
Mhm.
Is that you bought the APIs or how do you use that? I think
This one is via the Max plan. I think I'm gonna try to drop down on that, I think, because I just got
oh
a couple of
oh
couple
yeah
of promos for other things too. My
okay Okay,
I
so Anthropic bring back the Max plan. I
Mhm.
think they blocked traffic from opencode a week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I read something about that. Nothing ran. I didn't run into that problem, but I did hear about that.
Oh,
So thus far for me, I haven't. I had nothing has interfered with me. But for instance, how I had my Claude, I believe my Claude and then my Droid set up is I would do my planning and spec stuff with Opus, and then I would use GLM 47 to actually do the writing of the code, and then I would have Opus run the tests and then show me the output essentially.
oh,
Is how I would
okay.
save on tokens. But yeah, like I mentioned, I have subscriptions to a bunch of different services. So my ideal open code state, which is currently not in that ideal state, will be that it uses, it uses all kinds of stuff. It uses
Mm.
Zen, it uses Anthropic, it uses Copilot, it uses all the inference I can get, essentially.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all my question.
cool.
Hey Warren,
Uh,
can I jump in with a question?
yeah, go for it.
So it makes sense to me why you would, for example, use a different LLM for like master planning than like some of the other tasks. But just super basic question, how do you actually tell your agents that you want to use Opus for this and you want to use GLM for that, or whatever you decide you're going to use?
For yeah, so that'll come down to which harness I'm using. Can you start the application such that I can test the bot live in Discord, you sneaky dog? Um, let's see. Yeah, so that'll come down to the harness. Like for instance, in this one, if I have models and I go select this one, I did some configuration in my .opencode folder to set up the z.ai coding plan for my GLM. Um, and so for opencode, I can switch between any number of providers. For things like Claude Code, um, that doesn't by default, or I think there is an override for Claude Code actually, because I remember using it like that. Droid also has its configuration of being able to set up um, uh, other APIs. But yes, the how I handled that in Droid and Claude Code was I would make subagents, and then I wonder if I have a folder for it in this one, actually. Let me jump over here. Oh, if I can do that, and I go HI. Okay, I don't have it in this. But in my home folder .claude folder, I have uh, uh, whoops. Let's see. Which buffer do I have another? Um, in my home folder.claude folder, I have subagents, and then the subagents, you can declare the model on the subagent. And then if you have the name of the model configured as a separate API in the config file, then you will be able to use a different API when that subagent is called. And then I just instruct Claude or whomever, hey, use the GLM 4.7 subagent in order to complete this work. I might be able to actually let me see. Oh, wait, no, I want OT. There we go.
Yeah, I was mostly just asking because of, your comment about like you're trying to manage the spec, not tell it what to do, but this seems like a specific exception where you have to have either a config file or something that says when you're doing this type of task, use this agent. When you're doing that type of task, use a different provider.
Yes, I think I wonder, yeah, let me see if I can go to this bash. If I droid here, I don't know if it's going to be logged in. Okay, it currently is not. If I log in real quick, let me stop share for a second. Then confirm, and I'm all set. Okay, and then standard pricing at, I believe it's droids. Yeah, there we go. So I can show this if I go here. So this is another harness that I was using for a while, called Droid. It's from Factory AI, and you can see Researcher GLM here. We have Parallel Task Worker. We have Researcher Codex. We have Kimi Code Auditor. So all of these are in the prefabbed config file, and then there's a little blurb in the agents.md global that says, hey, when you're researching and you're fine with a dumb one because you're running 10 parallel research subagents, use Researcher GLM because it's fine. If you need to get work done in parallel, this also uses the GLM. You can use that. If you need good research, you should call the Codex researcher because it's smarter than the dumb little guys. So you should probably, after you do, let's say 5 parallel GLM researches, do 1 Codex research on top of that, and then have Kimi audit that after it's all complete. So you would use those are times in which I do specifically. I'll often specifically remind whatever harness to deploy these specific subagents or subdroids, because it doesn't always remember what's in the global agents MD. So I prefer to just say like, hey, use your parallel task worker to complete these work streams in parallel, stuff like that, basically.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Let's see. So the bot is supposedly seems to be running, which let me stop share and double check and see if she is, because she should be. This is my bot that I'm working on to help me co-host my weekly event. And let me check and see if she's in. Yeah, I unshared it. Yep, there she is. So let's hop up here and share that out.
I had a follow-up actually, Warren, from a previous question.
No
So
problem.
somebody had asked about like code structure and structuring the code. So do you do that with any of your MD files, or do you just stick to just pure functional descriptions, if you know what I mean?
I don't.
So the way the way I see that you're in your specs.md, you're just functionally describing what you want, versus asking it to structurally do things with your code. So have you tried anything structural, or is it purely functional?
I take a primarily, at least with the specs, I take a primarily functional approach, in that I don't want to describe past behavior, and I don't want to describe how things are done. I only want to describe this is the current state of the specification, and that should match the current state of the code base. So yeah, long story short is no, I'm generally very declarative with at least my specs. If there's specific requests like from the team of like, hey, this like the way that you've structured this is like really weird, it's hard to read, then I might, I'll just direct the bot like, hey, like make this more readable, unslop this. I think I actually have an unslop command, don't I? No, I don't. Not in this one. I think I do in cursor. But I do have a refactor command, which I can give it a directive like, hey, like this is filled with AI slop, fix it. So,
Cool.
Uh, yeah.
JS, have you done that? Have you done it the other way? Been a little more structural about it?
Um, yeah,
Oh, sorry, I was asking JNeth.
oh, yeah.
If,
Curious. Yeah. Have you found a different workflow that works for you, Jay?
No, in some cases I couldn't help but kind of uh, in the interactive case, I couldn't help but kind of jump in and say, hey, did you see this other thing? It's more like asking it to figure out for itself. And most of the time it does. So
I
yeah, so it's more like suggesting and then it picks up. But I'm not sure if I should be doing it. That's why I was curious. So.
I found so not so much in kind of a spec driven, but more in kind of a vibe coding style. Um, Sometimes when you have a series of requests, series of changes or whatever, it does seem like the code gets pretty spaghetti. And I had found if I directed it to create a more what I would consider a cleaner structure, it kind of got it out of that confused state where it just added mess on top of mess.
Yes,
I don't know.
for me, the way that I think that I've been like a militant TDD person essentially. For me is I will read test output way more often than I will actual code. And they're always going to write tests first, and the test should show me the intent of what the code is supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And for me, I found that because if you make them plan out the intent of the code first by insisting that they do TDD, then what you get is code that matches the intent as opposed to code that's kind of like spaghetti and all over the place.
So what about, so
In,
these are kind of greenfield applications of it. When you get into more, an evolving set of requirements, do you do anything differently? Because that's where I ran into more of a spaghetti code is when I said, yeah, I want to change this to do X, Y, Z. And basically the structure it laid out was not as extensible. I mean, it could do it, but it just did it in a messy way, which confused it and me.
Yes, well, I find that the code base needs to be well organized. So if there is if I am being handed a code base and it is full of slop and very messy, which I have been handed many code bases that look like that, I have to unslop it essentially. So I need to make sure that like the file names make sense, essentially the part of being able to drive agents in this way involves the code base being a well-structured, readable code base for humans as well. So usually when I do slop janitor duty, people end up appreciating it. But I do need to get that slop janitor duty complete before I start working. So I have been able to muddle my way through it, but it's much slower in like a gigantic, messy legacy code base that nobody understands. And like a good portion of my day will be like, okay, let's understand this code base and clean it up, essentially. Which
What
usually is like PM's fine with that if that's what I end up doing. So,
and how do you prompt your way out of that? What's that look like?
um, the one, let's see, the um in the I'm trying to think if I have well, I do know that I have a decent example. Um, oh, neat. Cool. So I'll have to do that later. Um, I can think of an example, but I have already unslopped it. Essentially, let's see. Let me show off one more tool. Let's do chisel. Let's /update real quick, maybe. So Chisel is the Windsurf CLI. I wonder if I have Windsurf open right now? I do. So Windsurf is great at undoing that because Windsurf has a thing called code maps. And code maps are fantastic because I can go, well, let's see what, I wonder what. Okay, yeah. So we have a big, gigantic, messy code base, as you can see here. And what I'm going to know, give me a code map for how auth is handled. And what this will do is it's going to use chisel. So let's chisel dark. Yes, trust. Oh, I see we have a new interface. Interesting. And yet another update. Okay. Oh, it's Devon CLI now. Interesting. Let's see. Tell me about the voice manager in the repo. I wonder if it's going to work the same. Glob, read, grab. Okay, yeah. So the reason I liked Chisel was I can also instruct other agents to do it, but it uses this SWE model, which is a model from Windsurf that is specifically trained to be really good at grepping things. So if I have a question about what is in a gigantic slop code base, I'll either use Windsurf to take a look at the code maps. Which I have some old ones here. Oh, no, that's from a different spot. So this will finish generating in a little bit, and this will map through the code base all the like auth stuff. And then if I need to know in a sloppy code base what something is, I'll usually use something like Chisel to map all of the code bases that are relevant to the feature that I'm worrying about. And then once I have a clear picture of those maps, then I'll spec out that portion of the code base. And then ideally I'll refactor and unslop it in kind of using the openspec workflow. And I might make a spec for like code base cleanup. But I'll generally follow the same procedure of like, okay, give me a proposal for what all you're going to do and what all you're going to change. Oftentimes, if I'm going to refactor or clean something up, then I won't, rather than taking fully destructive action, what I will end up doing is like making, if I'm changing folder or file structure, I'll like dump the old folder into like a .trash folder or something. And then after I finish the refactor, then I'll be like, hey, here was the old gigantic messy spaghetti thing, and then here's the new shiny one, and here's the code maps that they shared to make sure that all the stuff still works, basically.
So I remember, Warren, in one of your earlier talks that you said that you'd prefer to have a spec or something like that, let the agent go off and do its work. And if it got derailed, you're going to back up and change the spec, throw out all the work to date and continue on. Is that still work?
Yes, I would say I think the tool that I like for that kind of workflow is Cursor. Mostly, I find that the models are good enough these days where they just don't make those kinds of mistakes anymore, essentially.
Okay.
So primarily the like spec first, log all your work, give me good tests, and then give me tasks that run the test and tell me that the actual stuff I want to know instead of reading all the test output. I find that is sufficiently effective to get pretty much whatever I want done. But but Cursor, I wonder if I don't have it open right now, but Cursor has a neat little feature. I wonder what's going to be open in this. What do we have? We have just a random. Oh, okay. This is my mod that I made. I already have that CLI, you goof. But you'll notice there's a little 1x here. You can do 4x, and this will throw it into a work tree. And then we'll do main with the local changes, and then that's another thing that I actually should remove. So I don't use it anymore. Give me a new version of this mod that changes some of the demonologist skills into smiley faces. And now I have 4 of them running, and they're all in their own separate work trees. And then I can pick the one I like. I can throw away all the others. I can pull that one in, and I can get a bunch of different potentials. Yep.
These are all following the same prompt end there.
Yep.
Okay, so that's interesting. That may have answered another question I had, which was it's not in coding context, but more in kind of research. I had found like the language models tend to have different styles, different personality, et cetera. I would do some sort of query in each of multiple language models and then take the combined outputs of all those and not select one or the other so much as have somebody go through and kind of do an optimal combination of those.
Yeah, usually, yeah, I find that's effective too. Or one of my follow-up prompts to something like this would be like, hey, there are 5 work trees in your current Git tree. Explore all of those and then give us the best possible, or explore all of those, provide a critique for each one. Then for your favorite, improve it based on your critique, and then give us the best thing you can synthesize out of those 5 implementations.
And in this case, you've got 4 models all the same.
Yes.
You could switch that though, I assume, and have.
I could, yeah. So I can do use multiple models, and then I can say, give me 2 opuses, give me 3 sonnets, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow. And this is Cursor? Is that
Yep.
Cursor that supports that already?
Yep. Yeah. This just makes the interface for it nice. All you need is Git work trees. I think one of my old, I want to say it's
Does
Control A.
opencode do that?
Let's see. There we go. Code Companion has, let me see. I had my old Code Companion was my old one. I'm trying to see if I can. I don't know if opencode will I don't know if it has any extra utilities for it may or may not exist in opencode. I haven't found that is a thing I should look into during configuration, because like I mentioned, I try to save on tokens using the GLM plan. So when I'm looking into that, I'll probably double check and see how opencode does it. But if opencode doesn't do it by default, it'll be pretty easy to implement. I just need the opencodes in TypeScript, so I can just change it, give it some utilities to do work tree, and that's part of the reason I'm learning JJ too, is because the JJ checkpoint, I think they call it, is really good for making little temporary workspaces. And so if I have, in fact, can you use JJ Jujitsu and give me 4 different versions of, let's say, I don't know, what's a random spec we have? Anyway, I don't know if I want to deal with that, but I think like agents are really good, better than any human at using version control, right? Because they can use the Git CLI as well. They can explore your whole work tree. They can create multiple work trees. They can go back through and check out commits really fast. They can diff them. They can cherry pick out of them, et cetera, et cetera. So if you have a good version control system, you just tell your agent, hey, like, I think this is in Git somewhere, go find it. And it does, essentially.
What's JJ Jujitsu?
Jujitsu is an alternative to Git. Actually, can you give me a rundown of how to use JJ Jujitsu most effectively when working with agents. Do research if you need. I don't know if it's going to know it. I don't know if it's not. We shall see. Normally, normally I would want it to have web fetch tools for that. I don't know if it does. Oh, we do have a web search. Nice. Cool.
Yeah, I think one thing too with these types of code demonstrations is you really need some visualizations. I can't really follow. And what I'm hearing is it's doing this, it's doing
Mhm.
this. And I think you had mentioned at one point there was some end goal, for your meetups and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But that is actually a lot more important than all of the little minor things. I can't really follow too well what's going on here. But I think if you took the important parts of your code, fed it into Opus, generated some visualizations for structure, what was done, it'd be easier to follow. And again, kind of getting away from like the features and more into the benefits. Like I did all this in order to get this end product, and then this is better than the last iteration. And don't get me wrong, these workflows are highly technical too, but I can't follow. I can't follow what you're quite doing here.
So currently, what I was working on is a Discord bot. So I've got Discord open here, and I've got my bot online, which I had opencode start earlier. Opencode also let me know that the reason it doesn't have slash commands is because I need to reinvite it and give it different permissions to my server. So that will need some testing. But yeah, the output is this Discord bot right here, which currently I don't know if it's supposed to respond to DMs. We could add that potentially too. But yeah, in this case, I wanted to know about JJ, which is yeah, like a version control system. Is there, let's see. So we know it's a Discord bot. Is there something that would help you understand? Since I don't have it running and I'm not really testing any features right now, it would be difficult to exactly specify. Or yeah, so what we did was we added per user memory. So I probably will want to be testing that. But we've added all the code and we've got all the specs and stuff for it. So if there's something wrong with it, then we'll head back in here and we'll see what we've got test wise. But let's see. Yeah. So I guess do we want to see? In fact, actually, I need to check and see if. We have background tasks. Wondering, since it does have norm. I know in Claude code, usually you'll get a little indicator that's got background task running. So presumably, since this guy started up the server, it should be running in his session. And I don't exactly know how to get to that because I am a recent transplant over into opencode. But let's see. I wonder if there is can I do a command? Can I see if there is? Interesting that they don't appear to have one. Can you stop the bot? I wonder if this is okay. Okay, so you just p-killed it. Interesting. Yeah, I know Claude Code will show you those background processes running. I could probably use an indicator like that, so I might actually PR that into opencode because I currently don't see a way to look for that at the moment, and that would be handy because I often will have them running things in the background. So So it would be helpful for me to be able to see that, but I currently can't. Sweet.
Warren, where did you end up? What were you, are you at the end of what you were planning?
Yeah,
or
I'm pretty
kind of
much
deadlocked?
all yeah, I'm pretty much all good. I just to I guess like land the plane or whatever. We had a um little description of JJ and what and why that might be useful, which I can drop it off in like Slack or something. I find or in 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 theory crafting about JJ, it sounds much more effective just generally as a version control system than Git. Like Git is not, or like hot take maybe, Git is not a good version control system. It's just the one that everybody learned. I should not need a website called ohshitgit.com in order to figure out how my version control works. JJ is much more straightforwardly designed. The other one that I was trying for a while was Git Butler, but I found that that struggled with large repos especially. So I'm more over to JJ than I am Git Butler. But yeah, JJ wants you to like describe things in advance. You can squash it, you can split it, you can rebase like you normally would. You can make a little checkpoint. If the agent screwed something up, you just JJ undo. You can do two parallel approaches with making new branches. You can diff those. You can pick the winner and squash. You can intent tagged change. And then you can curate with the describe function and do a number of useful intuitive things more so than you could with Git. But they also, I find that I use Git itself manually a lot less these days. I'll just tell an agent like, hey, go cherry pick from, I think it's this commit or this PR, these features out of that, and pull them into my branch and test them. And they can just do that. So I find myself not doing much manual version control these days. But JJ looks like a good alternative to me, at least.
Do the agents like JJ over Git?
I'm guessing that they will be better at Git probably because there's a lot more of that in their training data. But Git and JJ are JJ is backward compatible with Git. So if I give them specific instructions to do JJ stuff, they'll probably do it. But they might use Git every once in a while, which is also fine.
And the backend, did I read that the backend, JJ backend is Git?
Yep, it's fully backward compatible with Git. Git, you can still use as much Git as you want in a repo that has a co-located JJ. You can just also use JJ too if you want.
Okay. And JJ's GitHub compatible?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Sweet.
Well, again, Warren, you're keeping us up to date. You're at
trying to.
bleeding edge of all of this. A lot of fun.
Indeed.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So what's on your radar right now?
Let me find my link for my meetup, which is I do a weekly that somebody asked about where I go specifically over why can I not find my events here? Let's see. There we go. I found it. Here is the link for you, Mike. What is on my radar is the Trinity model from RC. Did anybody catch that one? Because they have a they have a very thorough tech report. Let me see if I can find it. RC Trinity. Yeah, this guy. Trinity Large Tech Report is very interesting to me. Because we have I want to get this off my screen, please. We have interleaved local and global attention, data detention, depth scaled sandwich norm, sigmoid routing for mixture of experts, a new MOE load balancing strategy titled Soft Clamp Momentum Expert Bias Updates. We trained them using Muon, not Muon Clip, actual raw Muon, and all 3 models completed training with 0 loss spikes, which sounds absolutely crazy to me. So that was what caught my eye on that one. So if that sounds interesting to anybody else, that's my pick.
I like the that loss curve, especially for phase 3.
Right?
What were they doing there?
I have no idea. With no subsampling or smoothing, for clarity, we indicate where the batch size would increase to 128 million tokens, as well as the points where we switch data mixtures. Data mixture switch, I assume? Huh.
I don't know. It looks interesting.
Yeah, exactly, right? It looks absolutely wild to me. Um,
Yeah,
and
I'd like
yeah,
to highlight something that
yeah, no, I think this one, or yeah, once I get the bot up and running, I think I'll come back and show off what the actual output was. But yeah, don't have it ready to go for this one. But yeah, if I think it sounds like to me next week is could be a good robot stuff from Kevin, and then follow that on with anybody. Is anybody else interested in that RC Trinity paper? I can plan to presentation about it, I suppose, but if it's interesting to anybody else, always good to have a backup.
Yeah, I wasn't previously aware of it, so I can't, but
Hmm.
what you showed looked pretty interesting, at least certain aspects of it.
Sure. We'll drop a
Yeah,
link in Slack and people can check it out.
yeah. Yeah, if you think you could do that, that'd be cool. Also,
Mhm.
there was you had a couple quick pointers at remote wet lab.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if I can
there's
find something with that, then yeah, I'll see
that.
if I can bring it
I mean,
by.
that's a completely different direction than we've been going,
Hmm.
but it's also something really cool. I think so.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, if there's something that you want to share, or if somebody else is interested and wants to pick it up, that's cool. So, all right.
Mm.
Well,
And
um,
and is
Warren,
anybody
thank you.
interested in the new DeepSeek paper?
Ah,
I
yes.
haven't even seen that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm really interested in the
Yeah, we
attention
got some good
model that
ones.
they're.
yeah.
Terry, have you dived into that at all?
Yeah, I've been reading the papers. Actually, there are 3 papers about the hyperconnection. The first one is the one published by ByteDance about hyperconnection, and the
Ooh, yeah.
second one is published by DeepSeek about the manifold, what is it called?
I remember you
Manifold
mentioning, yeah.
constrained, yeah, manifold
Mhm.
constraint hyperconnection, which makes the hyperconnection training of hyperconnection more stable. And
Ooh,
there's a
yeah.
third one published by, I think it's a Singapore university, which is an improvement of the manifold constraint hyperconnection, makes it like higher performance and
Huh.
less requirement of the specific computing kernel.
Yeah, if you've read those, I would love a prezo on any of the above.
Yeah,
That'd be awesome.
agreed.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, I can do some sharing about that.
Cool.
Yeah, if the group is interested.
Yeah, if
Definitely.
you get if you have links to any of those papers, if you want to drop them in the agenda chat so we can check them out prior to, then yeah, I think it'd be a
Uh,
good kind of round robin, cool papers kind of jam.
yeah,
It sounded
yeah,
like sweet,
All right.
cool.
Well,
Yeah,
that sounds fun. So it sounds like we've got a bit of a uh,
Hmm.
plan
yeah.
for
I was
next
gonna
week,
say
and
if it
maybe.
helps, I was just talking about the DeepSeek manifold hyperconnection paper a couple days ago.
Oh, sweet.
oh,
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do manifolds. Let's do manifolds next week then. That sounds good.
Are you
Um,
good? Good for that, Ted?
yeah, I mean, I don't know if Terry wants to take the lead and I can do backup or vice versa, but um, did kind of a deep
um,
dive, and I will just briefly share in the chat. Can I do this in this chat? I don't think I can do
yeah,
this.
yeah. Ted,
But
if
I
you
actually got a suggestion from a friend, and so I had Claude look up all the references in the paper
Ooh.
because I'm too lazy to do that.
Yep.
And
Thanks.
I found it actually worked quite well. So when I'm reading this, paragraph and it has 6 references, it would take me a few minutes to look them up. It's a pain in the neck, but I just had this markdown that had all the references already. And then in this case, I was kind of familiar with a lot of the prior work. So other than the hyperconnections paper, the ByteDance paper, I didn't actually read any of the other ones, but it was useful just to know what they were talking about because a lot of times it's just like you see it's like prior work has looked into blah 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 17, 23, 48, 51, and like I don't even know the titles of the paper because I'm just too lazy.
Yeah, I've
I
found
just had an
polling this
idea.
was great.
So what you were saying, Ted, like, have you or anybody tried reading a paper with just like we code with LLMs,
I do, yeah. Or I that it
like where you ask it to go look for an reference. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah.
Mhm. Or yeah, I find that if I open a paper on archive, or how I used to do it was I would open it in Zotero and then I had an LLM plugin in Zotero, but now I just use ChatGPT Atlas and open the paper on archive in the browser, and then I turn on agent mode on the side and have it go do stuff usually.
Cool.
Yeah.
Would
So
recommend.
can you guys see my screen?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've I'm probably more particular than most people in terms of what information I want, and so I often get very annoyed
Mm.
when the LM tends to parrot what the author said, and I really want the LLM to do more of a meta thing to say, disagree with the author. If they said this is great, you think it actually sucks.
Mm.
Um, but anyway, so you can see here the majority of this is just the references. And so um, there's one place where they say, like, oh, and here's like a bunch of different papers that
Oh, I
hit
love
money.
this.
And so if I scroll down to where so here you can see. So here's a bunch of papers that all tried to do something residual stream. And they literally, in the paper, this is what the reference looks like. It's just Chai 2020, Fang 23, Hedis 2025. Like,
Oh yeah.
it's a pain in the ass to look up these like
Mm-hmm.
7, 8 papers. And so when I had it already, and I told it, list them in the order that they appear in the paper so that I don't have to go looking for anything. And so then I could just gently scroll down, and each time I got, it's like, okay, so here's just one sentence about, and I'm not 100% sure, but I did ask it specific. I asked Claude to specifically say, like, sometimes you'll see this thing where it's like, here's a paper, and the title is just very surprising because it's like better computer vision, and you're like, what on earth? And what they're actually citing is that they invented this like search algorithm inside of some computer vision paper. And so we're
Mm-hmm.
citing the search algorithm. And so I was like, don't just give me what the abstract says this paper is about. Tell me like the part of the paper that is actually getting used. And so this is where it's like, okay, this is where this particular paper is actually using something from these other guys or building on it or whatever.
Did you save the prompt for this?
I did, but the thing is, I had to iterate. So I this is new for me. This is the first time I tried this. So I don't actually have like a one-shot prompt that will give me exactly this. But
Mm-hmm.
I actually think better than that, now that I have this markdown file, I can just
Mm-hmm.
upload this and
Yes, you
say, do
can.
the same thing in a different format and give it a few instructions like the
Mm-hmm.
part about don't just agree with the authors. I think I need to give it that part. But most of it for the formatting, I can just say, see what
Yeah.
got done previously.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, if you're open to sharing that or putting it on GitHub or something, I'm quite I think that looks like an excellent like supplemental kind of thing to do to any given paper. That's super
Yeah,
cool.
so I
Nice
can
work.
post this in our Slack. It looks like
Awesome.
this Zoom meeting doesn't allow me to upload files.
Ted, question
So
on the way you did it, just to understand it better. So is it like you're giving it the, the DeepSeek paper, you're kind of starting from there, you have an interactive session, let's say, and then you kind of go off from there and it's creating and modifying that markdown file, which you're then viewing along with your session? Is that how you worked it?
Yeah, so what I did is I uploaded the actual paper, the PDF,
Hmm.
and then in chat, this was my initial prompt, but I did iterate on this. So just so you know, this didn't work exactly the way I
Hmm.
wanted. I had to, you know, but this is approximately what I told it, right? I said go through the
Okay.
paper, output a markdown file, and for every reference, I want you to list this information. Um, uh, and then like some hints, like use mathematical formulas or make tables or diagrams if you think it would help. And then at some point, when I used this prompt, I think the first thing it did is it decided to group all the references conceptually. And I was like, no, 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 no. Put them in the order they appear in the paper because I'm going to read the paper and scroll through. And I want it in that order. So I did have to iterate a little, but this is probably 80-90% of my prompt.
Cool. Thanks.
Awesome.
okay, well, so Ted, could you? I think it'd be great if Terry could, if you're interested, Terry, in leading the discussion next week.
Yeah, I can lead the discussion. Yeah.
Okay, and then coordinate with Ted. It sounds like Ted's got a lot of background material and can provide a good, strong backup
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
or
Thank
foundation,
you,
whatever the right
Ted.
term is. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be
And
great to see
you're
that third paper because the one you mentioned, the Singapore one, I haven't looked at that yet.
oh
Sweet.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I will post the links to the three papers
Sweet.
in the Slack.
Awesome.
Yeah. And
Looking
Ted,
forward to
your
it.
approach, Ted, your approach is interesting. Yeah, I will try that to read the papers.
Hmm. Cool, gentlemen. Well, I
Okay.
gotta take off, but it was a pleasure as always, and I'm looking forward to next week. That should be really cool.
All right,
So,
Warren. Thanks a bunch.
cheers. Hmm. Bye.
Thanks, Warren.
Thank you.